You know what they say? They say Monday is the new Thursday. It just happens that no one actually says that. That is just me. I'm the only one saying that because we are getting to all of the questions you asked on Thursday morning today. And we're going to answer as many as we can in a 30-minute time period. We've actually been coming in under time. But let's get to it right now on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. We are going to get right into it, starting with the leaders and best, the Michigan Mailbag. James Crudup at James Crudup 6. What do you think the temperature of Sherrone Moore's seat would be if Michigan misses the playoffs this year? I think it all depends on how Michigan would have missed the playoff, right? If it's because they look more inept or as inept as they did this past year, even with Bryce Underwood and stuff like that, I don't think his seat would be like, it would take a lot for him to be on the hot seat. But I think in year 3, he would be on the hot seat in that case. But I think if you, let's say they improve by a game and they're 9-4 this next year, but still beat Ohio State. Let's say like the losses are Oklahoma, Nebraska. It's kind of hard to pinpoint others because it's just the schedule is not really amenable to that. But let's just say it's Oklahoma, Nebraska. Who else would it even be? I don't think it would be Purdue. I don't know. MSU seems unlikely to me at this point with their roster. But let's just say hypothetically it's 9-4 and they beat Ohio State, maybe lose a bowl game, and then one other game. If like one of the wins is against Ohio State, then and Michigan State, I mean, it would have to be both, right? I don't think it like you can beat Michigan State and lose to Ohio State and lose multiple games and whatever. But I think you have to still just show some modicum of improvement. I don't think it's going to be one of those situations where they would allow him to just run the program into the ground, right? After everything Jim Harbaugh did. I don't think Ward Manuel's interested in Juwan Howard 2.0, but it would depend on what it would be to miss the playoff, right? Like, or let's say it's a 9-3 regular season, maybe even 10-2, but it just so happens that, there's some other teams that just get in ahead of them. I don't know. Just kind of depends on the situation. I have a hard time seeing. It's not that I don't have a hard time seeing them missing the playoff. They absolutely could go 9-3 in the regular season. That's absolutely possible. But that would mean losing all of the big games that are on the schedule, which is kind of what it looked like earlier this season, like what it was going to be until the end of the year. So hard to say. Josh Barajadicki, Moore has built a tremendous amount of momentum in recruiting high school and transfers in 2026 is building nicely. How well must the team perform this year to keep that up? I mean, it just has to keep an upward trajectory. NIL is going to help with that. I think it's hard to say that 2026 is building nicely. They have 2 commits at the moment. Brody Jennings, who did rise significantly in the On3 update, up to like 113 or something like that, after being like in the 260s. So that is huge. I've got a lot of guys that are on the radar, a lot of guys who are, you look at and say like, okay, they'll probably get Savion Hyder. At least it looks like that at the moment. Savion Hyder, Javion Osborne, they look likely to end up in the class. That would be huge. Can they get some of those big targets that maybe are trending elsewhere? Or, you look at like a Jackson Cantwell who came out and said that Dan Lanning is his favorite coach of all of them, right? Can they get the number 1 guy again? Can they get a Tristan Keys? They've got to close on a lot of these guys before I feel like super good. But I do think that they have to, part of it is on the field, right? I think 9-3 is your baseline then. But you also they have the NIL component that I think is going to help them across the finish line too. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21, with the Chip Lindsey offense, do you expect any offensive records to be broken? I think I'm asked this later, kind of. I don't know that offensive records will necessarily be broken. I will deal with one thing later, not to excuse myself for the moment, but it's the sole question of someone else. But I don't know that this is necessarily going to be an offense that's just going to just start setting records. I think it's going to be more just balanced. I'd have a hard time seeing them breaking the rushing record, the passing record, absolutely. But again, I thought that with JJ McCarthy. I thought that with pretty much every quarterback that's come through, because the bar is not that high. But I just think it's going to be more balanced. So that I would say at this stage, I would probably bet against it, but wouldn't be surprised if the passing record's broken. Jimmy Whitner at Jimmy Whitner 1. Would you pick the over under on 5 stars in the 2026 class if the number is 2.5? I'll go over, although Savion Hyder's the only one at the moment. Like, I guess it depends on where you're looking at. If you're looking at composites, you're looking at individual. I think they have an uphill battle with like Felix Ojo. I think they're in a good spot with Carter Meadows. But I mean, they've got a lot of work to do there too. It's way too early to tell, but I'll say over. I think they'll get to 3. I don't know if they'll get to 4. Number 2, what position is the biggest strength on the team? To me, that's safety at the moment. But I thought the same last year and it wasn't. But again, it's top to bottom, just so strong in my opinion. Number 3, how are you and Zuri dealing with this cold weather? Not great. I'm glad that today's warm. We didn't go out because I'm just kind of like was waiting for a day like this. But then it's like I look at the sidewalks. They're finally melted, but they're all wet. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear galoshes for a 4-mile walk. And I'm just like exhausted today for whatever reason. But yeah, it's been brutal because we've just been kind of we've had to be indoors. And I don't like cold weather at all. I loathe it with all of the fiber of my being. I look forward to moving to a warm weather state at some point and not being your man on the ground. I'll probably still be your man on the ground. When that happens, I'll fly back for football season. But I look forward to spending the other 9 months not in this state. Let's put it that way. Number 4, what are your predictions for the Under the Lights games? That's kind of hard because, I mean, okay, I have to look at the schedule because I can't remember offhand here. Let's do it on this computer real quick. Maybe not. Okay, here we go. I know every other's a home game. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the, either New Mexico or Central Michigan's a night game because we've already kind of seen that. Wisconsin feels like a pretty good bet, or Washington. And then everything else, I mean, that's it. That's really it, because then the other one is Ohio State. I would go with one of the first 2 home games, and then I'm going to go with Washington out of those. I think that one's more likely. That's just what I'm at. KRT at Farmer84. Do you think the Michigan offense will get off to a slow start the first few games due to a new OC, QB, and O-line changes? If so, what game will things really start clicking? I think it will, just by virtue of how bad things were last year, it might be slow start compared to what we see at the end of the year. I think it will just already look better week 1. It will. I think people will look at it and be like, wow, massive improvement. But like by the end of the year, you're going to think like, man, that was actually kind of not that great. Like, I think it will kind of look similar to 2023, right? When they were kind of putting up 30 points a game to start. And then after that, then they started putting up like much higher scores. So I think that things will start clicking probably. Let's go with the Wisconsin game, I think is when it will start to kind of work. And then by Washington, I think it will really be going. Jonathan Joseph at JJoseph2156 at the Disney Princess Half Marathon weekend. Would you or have you ever run you were at the Disney Princess Half Marathon weekend. Would you or have you ever run a Run Disney event? No, because I don't like running. I was really good at running at one point in time in my life, and that time is in the past. I will get good at it again, but I'd never have liked it in my entire life, even when I could run indefinitely. There was a point in time where I could, just jog, right? Like get on a treadmill 6 miles an hour, put it at a slight incline and run indefinitely. And like usually I'd be like, I think the longest I went was like 70 or 80 minutes and I just got bored. I wasn't tired. I was just bored. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. I proved my own point to myself. I'm far from that at this moment. I can run a mile, but it takes everything in me. And that is sad, but I need to get my cardio back up. So we're going to work on that here soon. So no, I haven't. Ending segment 1 with the leaders and best, Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. You going to the Zach Bryan concert at the Big House? Absolutely not. No interest. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. All right, we're going to continue on. We got the Victor's Valiant coming up here with plenty more questions, and then we get to the Blue Crew. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2-player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. Building lineups is one of the things that makes it so much fun, because this week I'm looking at Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Davis for more than 12 rebounds. I love how I can make my picks in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. When I win, my money hits my account in as little as 15 minutes. There's no waiting around. And the Taco Tuesday deals that they have, Prize Picks even offers these weekly promos like that, where you can get discounted player projections for even more value. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we have a lofty goal this week to make up for lost time since we didn't do a weekend show as I planned. 8 shows this week, so this is one of 8. We'll try to double up the next 3 days. Maybe I'll take 1 day off and just do 1, and then Friday go 2. We'll see. We're gonna get 8 in this week. That we're gonna find a way. What we're gonna do. All right. On to the Victor's Valiant. I'm not the one at William Cawthorne 9 with his usual cavalcade of questions. Why don't you think Jaden Davis has transferred yet? Because I think he wants to compete. He wants his degree from Michigan. And I just don't think that he's necessarily scared of Bryce Underwood, even though I think we all look at it and say he should be. But I think he's just going to go. He's going to get his Michigan degree. And then he's just that kind of kid, right? He said that he's not transferring. So that's what you got there. Well, where do you see Samaj in this room of receivers? Is he a 1-2 or a slot receiver or a 4th option? He's a slot for sure. It's just a question, is it him or Anthony Simpson as the starting slot? Hard to really say at this point. Got to get through spring before I can really answer that, but he is certainly a slot. What would it take for Sherrone Moore to be considered in the light as Dabo Swinney or one of those top-tier coaches? Championships. Dabo Swinney has championships and championship appearances. That's what it's going to take, championships. Big Ten and otherwise. And it's going to be a heck of a lot harder in college football playoff era in terms of, it's interesting because it's harder in some ways and it's easier in others, right? Because you might have a path that's just easier to get to the championship game, and maybe that big bad gets taken out by an upset, right? Just like March Madness. But yeah, he needs championships and championship appearances. He needs to win some Big Ten championships too, I would say. Looking at this roster for the 2025 season, what would you say? Would you say that they could contend for a national championship? They could. It would take a lot of luck. I think it would take some things happening around them. I think it would take the offense coming together in a way that we aren't necessarily anticipating. Bryce Underwood being ahead of schedule, some of the receivers on the team really taking a step forward. And that would include not just the transfers, but some others. I think it's possible. In the transfer portal era, anything's possible. And look at Indiana, right? They lost, 2 games last year? Lost to Ohio State and Notre Dame, and that's it. Yeah, and I understand they didn't look that competitive in either of those games, but you can do a lot with you can do a lot more now with teams that aren't even right there. And I think that Michigan at least has the culture everyone's pulling in the same direction, which you can't really fake. So that's the good thing. Perry Mitchell 08. It's only February, but I wonder, who do you predict to be the MVPs of the offense and the defense this season? Offense, I'll go Justice Haynes. Defense, I will go with, I'm going to go off the beaten path with defense. I'm going to go TJ Guy. I think he is so underrated. We've talked about TJ Guy. I wanted to go with Rayshon Bennett. I'm going to go with TJ Guy. I think everyone else up front is going to help TJ Guy be, I just think that he's got that it factor that you can't teach. So I think probably not a popular answer, but Justice Haynes, I think, is going to be my offensive MVP, and TJ Guy on the other side. Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Happy, we'll say Monday, my brother in Christ. Happy Monday to you, my fellow brother in Christ. Do you see anyone anyone leaving to the portal after spring ball? If so, who? No, I mean, some people will leave, but it's kind of like what I said last week. It's one of those things where it will be people who maybe thought that they were going to be higher up in the depth chart and end up being lesser than, or someone that's just severely tampered with, like a DJ Waller. But no, I don't have any names that I would say, yeah, they're absolutely on the way out. But look at linebacker, right? Like if Troy Bowles does really good, and ends up being like the others, like, if they have a starting 3 essentially out of the 2 positions of Jayshon, Ernest, and Troy Bowles, what happens to the other linebackers? Does one of them have a wandering eye? That's the only way I would look at it, really. Great Bambino X at Colossus O'Clout X, thoughts on the proposed college football playoff expansion with the Big Ten and SEC getting 4 auto bids? I think it would detract from conference championships, especially making it like division titles in the NFL. I could see a conference championship games getting eliminated. The aura of college football is losing out to greed. You asked this on Thursday, and I basically answered it at the end of my Friday show when I was talking about Big Ten Media Days. I feel like the powers that be are doing everything possible to ruin everything good about college football. And it ranges from the expansions to the conferences to the, like, I understand it's like hard to accept change. And some of us, when the Big Ten championship game was created, were like, but then like it didn't. But like you could tell year one, it was like, actually, that's great, right? Like that works out. That's cool. Adding Nebraska was cool. Rutgers and Maryland a little bit less so, though I like going to New York and DC. But then like the 4-team college football playoff, again, same thing. It was like, even though that was Ohio State that won it, it was like year one, you're like, okay, yeah, that's better than the BCS. And it was all the way through. And this new version, it just like, I did not find myself nearly as hyped to watch a lot of college football because of the watering down and all of that. And I just think that, yeah, I think you're right. It could end up being a thing with my battery is suddenly dying. I love when it goes from being like full to not. You have all these different things that are really watering it down. It makes it really disappointing. So anyway, yeah, I agree with you. Generic at ERKJ72, which coach on the staff could end up being a head coach in the future? I mean, they all say Grant Newsom. We need to see more on the field from him. Let me kind of think through here. I mean, Chip Lindsey has been one. Wasn't a great one, but he has been one. I look on the defensive side because offensively, no one's really standing out to me offensively. I mean, Lou Esposito has been one as well. I don't know. That's kind of it. Doesn't really, like, I could see Lamar Morgan. Lamar Morgan's the closest to it, I could say. That's what I would say. The Rican Raider at Hamstad 87. What's your take on Trey Taylor, quarterback from Mount Carmel? Mark Carmel. I'm an official in Chicago, and I can tell you he's the truth. Also, live podcast for the Wrigley game. Maybe we'll have to find a place if we can make that happen. I think that Trey Taylor, from what I've seen of him and from people I've talked to, I know some people that are close to Donovan Dooley, who's his trainer. They love him. They think he's amazing. He looks the truth. I saw some highlights over the weekend at a camp or something. I mean, he looks the truth. I think he's going to be the number one guy in 2027 for sure. But I mean, if not number one, top 5, right? Like he's going to be that type of dude. Finishing us out in segment 2, Jacob Shavoria at Shavoria. Most annoying Big Ten coach, Matt Rule, has moved into first on my list. And you asked if Dusty and Michigan were working on a new contract. I mean, literally same day that happened, or actually next day. But the most annoying Big Ten coach, I mean, yeah, Matt Rule's probably it at this point. I mean, unless you want to say Ryan Day, but that's probably more just a Michigan glasses on. Because right now Jonathan Smith's not that annoying. I don't think Luke Fickell's annoying. Matt Rule seems to be the most whiny of everybody. So yeah, I think you probably hit the nail on the head. Because like, who else? I mean, James Franklin would be the other one. But I have a good relationship with James Franklin, so like it's kind of more like, I don't know. Matt Rule, yeah, I think I'll go with you on that. All right, we're going to continue on. We've got plenty more coming up here in just a moment. But before we do, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I've missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I went to grab another battery and realized it's in the other room. So we got to make this quick before we lose video. Go Blue at Tom Conlon 4. Are Stallions questions accepted? Did he ever get his process looked at by the Michigan Compliance Office? No, I don't think he did. Why would his friends want to go to random games and miss Michigan games going on at the same time? I don't believe everyone's living necessarily in the state of Michigan and going. Not everyone's necessarily a Michigan fan. Why did his mom want to go to Purdue versus Iowa? I think she just happened to be out there. I don't know for sure. Did he ever use the videos made? To my knowledge, no. So that's it. Motown Mofo, Ryan Day's Demons. How close do you think Ryan Day's brain is to bursting while thinking about calling plays next season? I think he'll let Brian Hartline take that over, but I think much like in 2023, remember Brian Hartline was the OC in 2023, and Ryan Day called the plays because it didn't seem like it was working out. So I think it's probably pretty close. We'll see though. Mike Matthews at Michigan Mike 7. Are any of this year's transfers already enrolled and ready for spring practice? I believe all of them. I think they're all signed, all enrolled, all ready to go. Mike Tinkle at MTink1818. Do you have any specific pregame rituals or superstitions on Michigan football home game days? I don't want to call it a ritual. I definitely don't have a superstition, but like I arrive, get let into the photo room, set up my computer, take stuff to Chrysler for the post game. Come back, go down to the field, take a picture, post it on social media saying good morning, no matter what time it is, and go wait for something to eat, and then go out and get the team arriving. Oh, wow. So that's as close as it is, really. That's all I got. MBT at Maize and Blue True. Who do you think needs to step up the most in the receiving corps this year? I'm going to go with Fred Moore. I think that he's the type of guy that would work really well in this offense. Got the speed, got the ability to stretch the field, can be kind of that, midfield guy. He's certainly not Devontae Smith, but could be like Michigan's version of it, which is much less than what Devontae Smith is. That's who I think needs to step up the most, because I think it needs to be one of the guys that didn't transfer in. And I think Fred Moore is poised to do that the most. Jeff Johnson at LFG Jeff. Will Bryce Underwood be the quarterback to finally break the single season passing touchdown record? It's only 25. Yeah. By year 3, yeah. Absolutely. And the passing record, 3,331. He has more games to do it too. But yes, I do think he will be. Bailey Douglas at B96 Douglas 12. If there are no more additions made to this roster via the spring portal, does Michigan have the wide receivers needed to be as successful as the Cade McNamara-led 2021 Wolverines? Maybe. Hard to say, but at the same time, remember who were their receivers then? Cornelius Roman, and Roman was injured most of the year. And like Dalen Baldwin and Mikey Stainrich still. And I'm missing one. AJ Henning. Yeah, I mean, yeah, those aren't exactly names that were like popping off the page, especially in 2021. So they do, but they need the transfers to work out. They need others to step up. K-Lob 711. Who do you see being named captains or being the team leaders next year? Maybe 2 or 3 on each side of the ball. God bless and thank you for doing what you do. It was my pleasure, and God bless you as well. Obviously, you got the 2 returning captains, Max Bredesen, Rod Moore. As far as I could see, and this is where it gets a little harder, because it's like I'm trying to think of like Giovanni Alhadi strikes me as the type of guy that has the mentality to be a captain. Usually you're going to have like a lineman. So I'll go with him at this stage, at this moment. And then on the other side, I think, because I'm just going to go with 4, and I'm going only seniors here. On the other side, I would say Ernest Hausman has that type of thing. So I'll go with him. Method Man 8 at Method Man 8. With the impending ruling on revenue sharing coming up, does Michigan that you're aware of have a plan for how they will implement this? They do. I don't know what the plan is, but they 100% do. Ward's kind of spoken out about that. So yes, they do have a plan there. So rest assured. Don't know what it is. Honestly, don't really care. No offense. All right, we're getting down to the video ending. So here we go. James at Chubbs 2787, and video's gone. Which player, whether it be transfer, current, or incoming freshman, has the chance to be the biggest difference maker? It's Bryce Underwood 1, Justice Haynes 2, Dalen Baldwin 3. That's what, not Dalen Baldwin, Donovan McCulley 3. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.